Hi there, Emily Eldridge here. I'm the creator of the new Self-Empowerment, which is an extremely powerful yet very simple system for healing your inner struggles, honoring your inner powers so that you can fully live your truth. Because when you live your truth, you light up. And when you light up the world. And that's what my work is all about, healing you and healing humanity. So I had a question, sort of request from someone, a woman named Lena from Sweden, and she asked me, she said, I would love to hear about aspects of fear and how to relate to those feelings in a gentle way. Now, right now, it's April 30th, 2020. So we're in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic. There's a lot of fear. There's been a lot of fear for several months now. And if you haven't noticed, people react differently to fear, right? We have people react differently to trauma. People react differently to stress. And so you have some people who are wanting to curl up in a ball and just avoid the news and binge on movies all day. But then you have other people who are really, really, really into the news and want to know what's going on. We have other people who are following certain protocols when it comes to wearing a mask, or other people who say, nope, I'm not going to bother, and I don't want anyone impinging on my freedom. So we have a lot of different reactions to this global pandemic. And, it's a fascinating study because, frankly, nobody's experienced this before, unless you're someone who lived through the Spanish flu, which maybe you did, or maybe you've lived through sort of smaller versions of it, like with Ebola. But however, for this to be a global pandemic really means that our world is engulfed in a lot of fear. So I want to share with you my understanding of fear. There's a lot to say about fear. However, when it comes to my work, I have some very clear specifics about fear and how fear expresses itself, how it shows up inside of us, which when it shows up that way inside of us can be externalized in different ways. And the truth about those parts of us that carry that fear. So this is all part of the new self-empowerment. I want to give you a quick little primer. So these are your inner empowers. Now, if you go to my website, thenewselfempowerment.com, you'll learn about these. These are the 3 inner empowers. I call them empowers because they empower us to be who we're here to be. They empower us to live our truth. And so as you can see, we have the sovereign, we have the free spirit, and we have the impresario. The sovereign is basically the part of us that's all about purpose and meaning and spiritual connection and peace and wisdom. It's the very wise and intuitive part of us. Then we have the free spirit. That's like the little inner child who just loves to be free and have fun. And he or she is all about pleasure and just, enjoying itself. And then the final one is the impresario, and that's the part of us that's very left-brained, very practical, very rational. This one's very much about survival and getting things done, whereas this one's all about just having fun. It really doesn't care about survival, and this one's really about us having a sense of direction and purpose in our lives. Okay, so those are the 3 types of empowers. Again, you can find these on my website, thenewselfempowerment.com. Here's the deal. We all have these 3 inside of us. When we're born, we have them. We're lit up, we're happy, we're joyful, everything's great. However, we come into this world and we get impacted by pain and fear. We have traumas, we have negative experiences, we have we have really scary or dangerous situations to which we have to adapt in order to survive. And we do a lot of that really unconsciously, naturally. So what happens is then these 3 empowers that we have that start off, beautiful and lit up and everything, end up being impacted by that pain and by that fear. And they start to fragment and they start to grow darker and dimmer. And so what happens is that parts of those empowers can turn into what I call X-powers. And I call them X-powers for 2 reasons. One, because they feel like they work against our power. That's one of the meanings of the prefix X. But also because they're former parts of our power, right? See? They were parts of our power, though, but they've been impacted by fear and pain. So we end up with these parts inside of us. Inner defenders, inner woundeds, inner controllers. I'll go through these. So the inner defenders are the parts of us that are they can be very angry and aggressive and basically want to protect us from any sort of pain or fear or threat. They can be also very dismissive of feelings. They a lot of times they don't want you to feel too much. But they're also very good at setting boundaries too. I'll tell you that. So that's defenders. Then the wounded, actually, I take that back. I'm going to go to the controllers. The controllers are the parts of us like the inner critic that can be very controlling and oppressive and attacking and but also can be very, very anxious and very, want to suppress and oppress and sometimes make us feel really small or push us to succeed. So those are inner controllers. And then finally, they're the woundeds. Okay, so we have these parts of us that feel deeply wounded. They're usually very sad, they're scared. Sometimes they can be very angry, like a little kid having a temper tantrum. Woundeds can also be very, very confused. They don't understand, why are people mean? Why is the world the way it is? Why was that person, hurting my feelings? And so that's what woundeds are. Here's the thing. Remember how I said that these are simply these impacted by fear and pain? So all three of these, now these are all inner parts, okay, but they can be externalized. That's what we're seeing a lot of in our world today, is that these three types are all fueled by fear. So these are all expressions of fear. And the reason why I'm emphasizing that is because a lot of times we think of the wounded, for example, scared and contracted and hiding away, that's the only sort of expression that we see of fear, but it's not. Okay? Anger and aggression is an expression of fear. Anxiety and control freakism, that's an expression of, or perfectionism, that's an expression of fear too. Just the same as being sad, scared, angry, upset, hurt, things like that. Okay? So these are all expressions of fear. And the thing about these three is that they're all survival mechanisms. They're protective mechanisms. All three of these are doing their best to protect us whatever way they know. So for example, the defender might try to protect us by pushing away from whatever it perceives to be the attack or the threat. The woundeds would want to pull away from it and get away from it, from that fear or threat. And then controllers may want to try to change the source or the cause of the anxiety or the fear. And so these are all ways that we react. These are all reactions that are based on fear. Okay? And I want to make that clear because, as I said before, right now we're in a global pandemic. We have a lot of people reacting in a lot of different ways. We have some people who want to jump in there and try to fix things. We have other people who want to run away. We have other people who are getting very angry about the situation. These are all expressions of fear. Now, those are externalized versions of these, okay? These are all internal, right? Those are externalizations of these kinds of behaviors and feelings and reactions. The other thing about a pandemic like this is that it can trigger old wounds. Okay, so a lot of times, whatever it is that we're already harboring inside, you add a stressor to that, like a global pandemic, and you're going to get a massive reaction. So you might have someone who has been through an experience where they felt extremely vulnerable and helpless and defenseless. And so rather than going to a defender place, although they could do that too, maybe they want to pull in, maybe they feel despairing, like they can't change anything. Because it's true, there's a lot we can't control. So, but then you might have someone who goes into defender mode, and the defender mode might be to, react against the situation or even be dismissive of feelings. That's a pretty common defender mode. We've seen some people who are doing that too, who were saying, everybody's overreacting. They're entitled to that opinion, but sometimes that kind of reaction can be fueled more about trying to avoid their own anxiety and fear because they really don't want to go there because because they're too afraid possibly of feeling this. That actually gets me to another point where the defenders and controllers, those inner parts, only exist because of the wounded. Okay, so whether someone's going into control freak mode, and I'm going to try to fix everything and fix everyone, or if someone's going into that defender mode and I'm going to try to dismiss feeling, or I'm just dismissing people's feelings, or I'm acting like nothing's bothering me, or I'm getting very aggressive and angry at the situation, the current global situation, those exist because of woundeds. Okay, those exist because of fear. So one of the things that I found is that when you actually sit with these, when you sit with, let's say, like for me, I have defenders who show up all the time, not so much in relation to the pandemic, but in other situations. And I've got, inner defender that reacts and it gets very angry, is that I kind of sit with it and I'm like, okay, I'm angry right now. And so I'm just going to sit and I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to honor it. Because I know from experience, I know from my work, I know from years of doing this, that these parts are not bad. Okay, there is nothing wrong with these parts. They're simply trying to protect us whatever way they know. So if I have a defender that pops up inside of me, I know that it's just trying to protect me whatever way it knows. It also may have some wisdom for me. These often have a lot of wisdom that's kind of buried under all that emotion. But then when we turn towards it and we listen and we honor those parts of us. And when I say honor, I don't mean, like if I've got a defender popping up, I don't mean like I'm going to go screaming at everybody because I'm angry, but I honor it. I kind of go, I honor its feelings. And I say to it, okay, I can feel you're really angry. I sort of notice what's the part of me that's getting angry. I sit with it. I'm like, okay, I can feel really angry right now. What's going on? And I let it tell me what's going on. And it may be a part of me that's really mad because it feels like my boundaries are being violated. It may be triggering a wound from childhood when I felt like someone was trying to control me and I didn't like that. And so I'm getting angry. This part of me this defender inside of me is getting very angry and trying to protect me from being, controlled or overruled or whatever the deal is. But always, always, always. And so this might actually have some really great wisdom. It might say, or it might say, you let that person violate your boundaries and I don't like that. And I think you need to speak up to that person, for example. So that can be some of the wisdom that these parts of us, can be trying to convey, not always effectively, not always in the best ways, but nevertheless, there's wisdom in them. But the point is that this defender exists because it has seen me hurt. It has seen me wounded. You see? And so underneath that, there's almost always wounds. There's wounding underneath that. So these defenders and controllers and woundeds exist because they've seen us hurt. Okay? So I'm impressing that on you because we tend to fight these parts of us. But I found that never works. It never works. So really going back to Lena's point about, the aspects of fear and how to relate to those feelings in a gentle way. Most people fight this stuff inside of them. And understandably, nobody wants to go around being angry. Nobody wants to go around being critical. Nobody wants to go around despairing about the world and scared and feeling defenseless and helpless and hopeless and worried about their survival. Nobody really wants to feel that way. However, I've found that trying to deny these parts of us, suppress them, dismiss them, ignore them, it doesn't work, does it? I mean, try to do that, right? Let's say you're crying and someone comes along and says, stop crying. Does that work? Does it actually make you feel better? Or does it make you feel worse? Like someone's not honoring how you feel. So that's really the crux of this, is that there's nothing wrong with these parts of us, okay? We have every right to feel how we feel. That doesn't mean we have the right to do whatever we want with how we feel, okay, right? Like I said, this defender, for example, may be really angry. I have a right to feel angry. It has a right to feel angry. It doesn't mean it has the right to hurt anyone or attack anyone. But we don't necessarily have to let it get to that point, because if we truly honor the feelings that this is holding for us and the wisdom, then oftentimes what happens is it actually calms down, believe it or not. A lot of times we are afraid that if we turn towards these feelings that they'll get worse. If I actually listen to or honor or really, sit with this fear, that it's going to get worse. And occasionally there are times when, yes, it can get worse before it gets better. But a lot of times these things are popping up because they really want us to honor them and be aware of them and recognize that they're just trying to take care of us and protect us and help us whatever way they know. Those ways may not be so helpful. They may not be effective. They may not be ways we want them to, but nevertheless, their intentions for us are good. Okay? So, back to her question or her request about how to relate to those feelings in a gentle way. Let me ask you this. When you're experiencing some kind of emotion, how do you want people to relate to you? Do you want to tell them, do you want them to tell you to shut up? Or that you don't have a right to feel that way, or quit your crying, or, suck it up, or push it down? Or does that feel good? Does that feel right to you? Probably not. And you may have been taught that a lot. A lot of us have been in various ways. We've been taught not to truly honor how we feel, even though there's so much wisdom. There can be so much wisdom in how we feel. So when it comes to this global pandemic, okay, and we have this stress on us that's so scary and it's so overwhelming and it's unprecedented. This is huge. We're all going to have different reactions, okay? We're going to be triggered in different ways, and we may switch between these. I know there have been times when I'm, want to curl up on the couch, and just, sit with a glass of wine and just watch just watch a movie and just forget everything, right? There may be other times though where, for example, if one of us has to go out of the house, we got mask and the gloves and the hand sanitizer, and I get all kind of like, you got to do this. And then if someone's not doing it, the way I think they should be doing it, then I'm feeling very critical and angry towards them. That can be that part. And the same thing with that defender, I haven't so much had the defender reaction to this, but there have been plenty of people who've gotten very angry and they feel like their rights are being infringed and they feel like people are trying to control them, or they're, all kinds of things, okay? Or there are plenty of people who are being very emotionally dismissive and telling the people who are going into these modes that they shouldn't be overreacting, they shouldn't be feeling that way. Okay. So the point is to help, obviously to help us understand ourselves and help you understand yourself in terms of these, but also to understand where other people are in different places. They're getting triggered in different ways. Okay. But the most important thing is to recognize that, people are going to get triggered in their own ways. They're going to go into their own reactions because of this added stress. Okay. And because of, they've got other stressors we may not know about. They may have severe, survival stresses. They may have personal relationship things going on at home because they're stuck at home with someone who's abusive. There are all kinds of situations that people are stressed about, okay? And so these are some of the inner reactions to those stressors. And so it's about really having compassion for yourself and also understanding that everybody's in a different place. Not everybody's in the same place with this, but we can't so much control that as we can really honor and validate ourselves and where we are and how we're feeling. Okay, so that's what's really important. So here's what I do. Okay, so how do I relate to my feelings in a gentle way? I already sort of just talked about this, but here's how I tend to do it. As I said, if I notice that one of these is coming up, if I notice that a part of me is feeling really scared and nervous or anxious or powerless or what have you, I just honor it. I sit with it and I go, okay, I'm noticing that this is how I'm feeling. And I let that part of me show up, because it's almost always a part of me, and I honor it. Now, I have various techniques, and this is all part of my work with the New Self-Empowerment, which, by the way, I teach some of those techniques for free in my free online program, thenewselfprogram.com, okay? thenewselfprogram.com. You can learn some of these techniques for free. And part of the drawing out process, which is what I use. So what I often do is sometimes I will just sit and listen and talk to that part of me, or actually let it express itself in its fears, and without trying to convince it otherwise, I just honor it. I also will just say, I hear that you're scared, and it's okay to be scared. So just reassuring that part of me that it's okay for it to feel how it feels. And validate its feelings. Remember, I talked about how resisting, ignoring, suppressing, that doesn't work. It just makes it worse. So instead, what if you were to just turn towards those feelings and honor them? Go, okay, really scared right now. And just let that part of you know it's okay to be scared. It's okay to hurt. And I know that you're scared. I know that you're scared, of all these things that could happen. So we honor it. I also might draw it out, and that's in my program, thenewselfempowerment.com, to draw out those parts of me that are feeling that way. And I teach how to do that in that program. Or if it's one of these parts, right? So these parts don't typically show up as being scared so much. I mean, this one might show up as being very anxious. This one almost, rarely ever shows up as being scared. So what I would tend to do with one of these is I'd say, you know what? Okay, I feel that you're there. Let's say it's a defender. You're really angry. Okay, I'm noticing I'm really angry right now. I'm sorry. I know you're really, really angry. So you sit with that part, and then what often happens is, as the anger kind of subsides and the wisdom is expressed, as if I ask it, so what's going on? What is it that you're trying to tell me? What is it that you're angry about? And listen to it, let it express itself, is that pretty soon it'll start to calm down. Whew. And then before you know it, you'll find that underneath this anger is the fear. and the wounding. It's afraid that I'm going to get hurt again in the way I was hurt before. It's afraid that my life is going to fall apart. There are all kinds of things. So it's trying to protect me from that. It could be afraid, this part can be afraid that I will then feel these feelings and then I will fall apart, and then that will threaten my own survival. Okay? This part can often feel critical. Sometimes it can feel very anxious. So that's where it kind of feels very anxious, like it's got to control everything. It feels so out of control. So that's why it tries to control. Again, same kind of thing. Hey, okay, I'm feeling this anxiety. I'm feeling this need to control everything. I'm feeling very out of control. Just honor it. Okay, I can feel that this is how you're feeling right now. All right, I get it. I can tell that you're really scared for me. So you can say that to these two. I can tell that you're really scared for me. I know that you're really scared. And you'll see, it's like all of this, it's like those feelings just start to calm down, because really a lot of times what they want is just a little bit of attention. They want us to know that they're looking out for us. Okay? So I know this may seem really strange. This is definitely a different way compared to how most people respond and deal with their own emotions. But, I have to tell you that this work and these discoveries came out of my own struggles with my emotions, in which I was taught to suppress, criticize, reject, dismiss, what have you, my own feelings and emotions. I found it doesn't work. It actually makes it worse. So as we're in this time with this whole COVID, this coronavirus global pandemic, this can be a really good time for us to sit. I mean, there are a lot of us who are doing a lot of sitting right now, sitting at home. This can be a really good time, though, to sit with that, to really sit and honor and notice what are the feelings that are going on. And a lot of times we don't want to do that because we don't feel like we can control those feelings. We don't know what to do with those feelings. And that's where I really encourage you to go to do thenewselfprogram.com. Do my free program. Take it, learn from it, learn these techniques that teach you how to honor these within you and heal these. Help to heal these within you, because you're not doomed to struggle with these parts of you. And having a major stressor like this can bring those parts of you to the surface and make it feel very overwhelming. But we often don't know these exist until they do come to the surface. So this is a wonderful opportunity to really allow those parts of you to come to the surface so that you can face them and address them and honor them, so that they can feel heard and noticed and valued, which is what they really want. And kind of like I asked you before, what do you want? Isn't that what you want? To be noticed, heard, validated, honored, understood. When you do that for these parts of you, I promise you, you will automatically start to feel that way more yourself. So this is extremely, extremely powerful and vital work that you can do by learning the truth about these parts of you and realizing they're not trying to hurt you. They're just trying to protect you and take care of you whatever way they know. And then applying some of the techniques you learn in thenewselfprogram.com, drawing them out, listening to them, maybe even just start by journaling your feelings. There are all kinds of ways of just letting these feelings out and listening to them and honoring them and listening for the wisdom that's inside of them, because you'd be amazed and surprised how much wisdom there is in all of these parts. There's wisdom in every part of you, okay? Your M powers, and remember, your X powers are just transformed parts of your M powers, okay? So remember that. No parts of you are bad, all right? We just have parts of us that are caught up in struggle and pain. And a lot of those parts are getting triggered right now in this whole global pandemic. So this is really a great opportunity to let those parts come up and honor them. Sit with them, express them out, draw them, write them. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. I hope this helps to give you some perspective, an enlightened perspective and understanding about what's really going on inside of you, okay? And getting to know these parts of you and recognizing that they're not trying to hurt you. They're just trying to take care of you whatever way they know, okay? And that you are not doomed to suffer from them, that there are ways to permanently heal them. That's actually what the drawing out process does, which is my process that I teach a little bit of in the online program and that I do with my private clients. So Anyway, I hope this has been helpful. Again, it's thenewselfempowerment.com is the website. The free online program is thenewselfprogram.com. I also have a book. It's unreleased as of yet that I just finished this past year, and it's called Light, Dark, Truth. And that's where I actually explain these. I explain those in excerpts from the book that you can sign up to receive the excerpts all free, lightdarktruth.com. All right. So I hope this has been helpful. Please do put your questions or comments below. Please share this. If you have found this helpful, please do share this with other people everywhere, okay? So that they can really learn and have a better self-understanding and self-compassion, right? Being really patient and gentle and compassionate with ourselves. That's where it all begins. All right. Thank you so much. Stay well, stay healthy, and there you go. Have it, there you. Why am I having trouble ending this video? All right. Anyway, I'm here. Ask questions. Stay well, be healthy, and I'll talk to you again soon.